Hi, this is the new normal. We're going to have to wear masks now for maybe 6 months, get us into winter. And this is a wake up call that now it is required that we all wear a mask. So when you're in public and you're not with your normal pod, the people that you hang out with, because we all kind of have a circle of friends that are all being careful that we can be with and walk with and have a meal with. And those people we're being careful with, I call it our pod. So we all have people we can be with. But when we're not with our people and we're going to town, we need to think about having extra masks. I love this one. It's the same color as the green screen, so it's picking up my background. But anyway, we need to have them in the car, in our pocket, in our book, stuck in a book, whatever. We need to have several of them. And sometimes you can have one that matches what you're wearing. I think people have gotten fashionable about it. Some people have been wearing them as a family where it's just the standard stock one, but some people have a message. They maybe put a mustache on it. So anyway, it is something we just need to acknowledge that right now for a while, we will be having to have one on our person in public and when we go in to shop. And I think restaurants now will be having us eating outdoors. I'm glad it's summer, so there's no inclement weather. And so we'll be able to enjoy a meal and walk with friends and neighbors outside. We could meet up with our family and take a walk, take a picnic maybe. I like to encourage people to be a tourist in their own town. Right now, I'm recording this. I like to always tell people this is public access. This is channel 15 in Weed, California, and also Mount Shasta and Dunsmuir cable. But I think we're also on the YouTube, if you want to look up Siskiyou Media Council, or if you go Siskiyou Media Council to our website, they also have video on demand. So you can look for Arthur and the shows he's done. I think we have one on meditation. I know up in Oregon, I want to tell you about the programming blocks. I also work with a station in Oregon. I don't know which way to tip this. It's not like a mirror. Anyway, this is our programming block up there. It's all wrinkled and dog-eared. But they have different kinds of shows like well-being and lifestyle. They have educational programs. They have news and politics. Some people like to tell the news. And some people like to do arts and culture. They'll go out and they interview artists, take a picture of them in their studio, whatever they're working on. Faith and spirituality. I think there's one particular sermon that gets put on every Saturday morning because he picks a local topic and he tries to solve a problem, and everybody finds him very interesting. They have children programming, and hopefully as we get more people like you involved in public access, we can do more of these programs. They had music. There used to be Southern Oregon SOSA, Southern Oregon Music Group, would get together and record, and then we'd show their show. I wish they'd come back. That's at the Rogue Valley television station that's actually near the Southern Oregon University. Now we here in Weed, California, we're near the College of the Siskiyous. So we have a little studio that's been set up. Paris worked tirelessly to figure out how to give us a green screen so that I can have, I can be somewhere else. Looks like I'm sitting at the lake. Anyway, arts and culture, like there's a lot of artists around here. Now we have several people that are involved with the studio. I don't know the names off by heart that have cameras. And we have cameras out like in the Scott Valley and up in Wairika, over in McLeod, out towards Doris. And a lot of people are capturing news bits and sending them into the station. And I think Paris is doing a weekly program. I'm not sure what's happening on that. But the point is, as we get more people involved, we can have more programming blocks of different kinds of shows. But we do have people that do meditation, and somebody does the bowls, the singing bowls. Um, I saw an ad that I wanted to remember to you, and it was done by Ford. It caught my ear, and I wrote it down. It said, "Procrastinator, do it later. Until tomorrow day waiters. Regretters, do it better. They're the deal getters." So they were trying to get you to call up and buy a car. But I thought it was clever. Procrastinators do it later. Until tomorrow waiters. Regretters do it better because they're the deal getters. Anyway, I just wanted to share a little quip with you because I'm always finding something that I want to share. Um, I like to not only invite you to get involved in public access television because we need more content, but you might have something to share. You might have gone on a trip and taken some wonderful pictures. Vicki, if you're out there, I know when you drove to Alaska, you had great photographs of all the wildlife and the beautiful roads that you could travel on. So if you want to put those together on your iPad, um, Vicky Bell Satoka Verasi. She took a big, beautiful trip with her son up to Alaska years ago and has a wonderful chain of photographs. A lot of people take their photograph chain and want to share it with their mom or grandma, and they put it in a little frame, and then it ticks off the pictures of the trip. That's something you could do here. So we have a lot of shut-ins, and now, of course, with the coronavirus, we have a lot of people that are spending more time inside. And since our Siskiyou Media Council's presence is now on YouTube and also video on demand in our own website, you could be producing a show that people all over Siskiyou County, because we also have a TV station in Wairika on cable. I know cable is waxing or waning on its way out because people are getting satellites and getting their television through Wi-Fi. But that means they can tap into the Siskiyou Media Council through YouTube or through the internet. So you could do a show and take people on a trip. If you, let's say you went hunting and you had a really good hunt or something, you might want to share that. Put it together by this fall when people are getting the fever and starting to sight in their rifles and their guns. Now, I'm not against guns. I don't think we should have military style weapons. That's my opinion. But I'm not against guns, but I want to remind everybody to make sure their guns are locked up. I think we need to find out from the police department. They used to give away these gun locks, and we just need to remind people that I think they give them away. I don't know if the local police department or highway patrol, but I think it's important to ask for them if you have children in the house and you haven't thought about it. Even though the guns might be up and out of the way, you might want to consider getting gun locks. I just wanted to remind people, since children are home and they might not have thought about it, because it used to be they were pretty safe and out of the way. So let's make sure we're safe. So that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. The other thing is I like to remind people to get the newspaper. I think I brought up a couple papers today. I like to remind people to get the paper. Right now we're remembering, I think anybody that's been here a long time, the Canterloops spill. It's like it was almost 30 years ago. And I was on the mail route that day when all the scientists were down there collecting water samples and everything. And the roads were all shut down, and we had a cloud of smoke and something went in the river down to Shasta, and it was kind of a scary day for everybody 30 years ago. And I think that's the reason people are trying to protect the rivers and waterways of the world. We look at this pipeline order has been delayed because they were trying to cross a river 2 or 3 times as they transported these oil tar sands, whatever it was, across country. They were crossing important waterways. And I try not to get too political because I don't want people to turn off the show because they might disagree with me. Because in the old days, you could disagree with people and they didn't get mad. But nowadays, it seems like people just their ire gets up and they want to defend their position, and not everybody's open to hearing both sides. Because if I hold up a nickel and I tell you it's tails, and you say, no, it's not, it's heads. And I can say, well, let me just turn that around and I'll look at your way for a minute and see if there's any parts where let's find the things that we agree about. And one of the things that we all need is water. We need it not only to drink and clean our clothes and our lives with, but we also need it to grow our food and there's so many, the fish need it. I mean, I don't want to pollute the waterways. I know that people in upstate New York and up where the coal countries are, and now they're not mining in the ground, they're blowing off tops of mountains, and they're trying to stop that because it really does leave a lot of fouled water. And the hard part is the people want industry. The people that live there want to work. So they get frustrated when, the EIR want to come in and test the waters in the ponds that are leaching into the ground. And they really know that the life is short for fossil fuels and we need to leave them in the ground. But we need the people to be secure that those companies could really start to develop wind and water and solar, and they could use the money behind their research for fossil fuels and take it above ground and find ways to use the power of the earth and wind and water and solar. So I want people to be innovative. One of the things about this COVID lockdown where we've all had to stay home, in some ways we could look at it as an opportunity for people to be innovative, to look inside ourselves and say, oh my gosh, I always wanted to make this or design it or create it. And it's an opportunity for us to reflect on an idea we might have had and maybe do it. I mean, I'm not a writer, but you might want to just have a calendar where you jot down notes that trigger your thoughts for a story you want to write. It's interesting. People are now saying that the Ayn Rand books that were written in the 50s, they seem to be so poignant today. So it's interesting that thoughts you're having may come around again. So you may want to think about one of the things we can do with the stress and the anxiety we're having is not only get some order in our lives where we do things at a regular time or we try and make time to stretch. If you watch critters, when they stand up after sleeping, they stretch all those fibers apart. We need to do that. I'm not really cosmic and I'm not asking you to chant or anything, but I do want to remind you when you stand up in the morning, get uncurled, stretch, and find a corner, because it's one thing I do is in the morning I try and find a corner and I realize how much I have to stand up straight because I pull that string. Anyway, not only trickling into health here, I want to talk about how we eat and gardening. It's I want to remind you that it's not too late to plant a little something. You still can before, September, October, November, as we start to lose the good weather, we could still grow herbs and basil and maybe some green onions. And there's things that still will grow, radishes, and you can still plant things. I had bad luck with spinach. I told you the rabbit ate it. But one of the things I was reading, and I'm not meaning that you might want to grow this, but they were saying a lot of people are eating more sauerkraut and doing pickling and things because it's good bacteria for our innards. This was a little article I got that said, eat like a mermaid. It says, as the Earth's population skyrockets and its supply of arable land dwindles, nutritionists and sustainability experts are casting a hopeful eye toward the ocean, home of an abundance of crops. Growing seaweed for food requires neither land nor irrigation nor chemicals. I thought this was interesting. Sea veggies are packed with nutrients, and research suggests that including them in our diet, that might help reduce the risk of obesity. Also, they're finding that it might work with cardiovascular disease and some cancers, colon and breast cancers. So while island and coastal cultures like those in Japan, Ireland, and Scotland have been reaping seaweed's health benefits for centuries, it's not a very familiar food in the United States. So outside of sushi restaurants, so that's starting to change as a growing number of aquatic farmers are selling seaweed for cooking and snacking. You can find brands like, write this down, Eden Foods and Emerald Cove. So also in the dried goods sections of natural food stores and Asian groceries. Oh, there's a really good Asian Thai store at the corner of Hartnell and Churn Creek in Redding. It's totally just a little private store. You just kind of go in the back and they have everything that you might want. I'm sure they have all these seaweeds. So just a few basics are the nori is the Japanese word for seaweed that's processed into sheets. And it's used to make sushi. Kumba is a type of kelp. Kombu is found in underwater forests. It's traditionally harvested in Japan, but it grows elsewhere. Dulce is one that I've seen before. It's long, leathery, burgundy colored. I've actually remember people would like take a bite of it and chew it. I don't know if you ever saw that. Wakame is a dark green flat leaf seaweed, and spirulina is referred to as blue-green algae. It's actually a type of harmless bacteria, and it flourishes in warm climates. So I was just looking at this article thinking, that's interesting. I wanted to share that with you. Every once in a while, I find out something and I think, I want to tell everybody that might even. Does anybody watch my show? Anyway, spring cleaning, I want to remind all of us now is a good time. We're all kind of going bug nuts, rearranging our house, deciding what we don't need. We're looking at stuff we haven't touched in a long time. Might be a good time to just set up tables on your street and have a little neighborhood garage sale and swap out clothes as the kids are getting older. And everybody can do that from 6 feet apart. You can have a can for your money and just make it a donation can instead of exchanging change. Tell everybody bring dollars. So anyway, the idea of spring cleaning is that it gives us a chance to maybe do something like right now I'm thinking, I've been meaning to change that linoleum. So I kind of have a project where I want to change the linoleum in the kitchen. And all of us are looking at those things. And of course, then I look up and I see cobwebs and I realize, oh my gosh, I've been working in the garden and not looking at cobwebs. So anyway, good time for us to all do spring cleaning and maybe a chore we wanted to do. I know Home Depot says they're busier than ever with people coming. And also garden places are very busy with people picking up outdoor things. Don't forget, even though you don't have a big yard, a lot of people are doing container garden. And if you ask them at the nursery when you get the plant, the tomato or whatever, what kind of dirt, because this year when I put in the dirt, it felt to me like it just dried out and it was just the water was rushing right through it. I didn't feel like it had enough food for my tomato. I thought my tomato was hungry. So I gave it some, I went in and I think her name was Tristan. She gave me some really good dirt that had chicken manure for like extra to kind of bump up the dirt. And right away I had 2 new tomatoes and I even have 1 zucchini. My garden's slow to go, but anyway, I have a zucchini, so that means there might be more to follow. So I'm excited because the rabbit stole the spinach and chard. He's not going to get my zucchini. I put it in a bucket. So anyway, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that for gardening and remind you that there was several articles about what to plant that would grow fast that you could just harvest and use like chives. Like if you want to make baked potatoes later in the summer when it's, or if you're barbecuing outside, you can do potatoes on the grill. A lot of people are barbecuing outside. Oh, I had this one thing I wanted to show you. It was talking about summer barbecues. Oh my gosh, I hope I can find it fast. I'll just have to tell you. I wonder if it's right there. So they, I want to show you this. Oh, I want to show you. They had it. They took a watermelon and the way they sliced it was all in cubes, and they took sea salt and sprinkled it on top. I remember maybe once a long time ago, but sea salt on top of watermelon at your next barbecue. So I just wanted to tell you that it kind of makes it sweeter when you have that. So there's an idea for you. What else did I want to remind you? What happened this week? I want to talk about my friend Lynn. So I went up to my friend Lynn's house in Talent. True confessions. I took a camera and I was trying to do a interview with her. I don't even want to tell the truth. So when I got to her house, there's my welcome pollinators signs out, and she's got one of those butterfly bushes, and her garden is just beyond. But then when we went to the backyard, we set up a place to film, and it looked just perfect, and I checked everything, and I could see that the camera, I had the microphone hooked up and everything, and I forgot to switch it on. And so we did a whole 10-minute interview, and I'm sorry to say, I didn't have the sound on. But I think I have one picture of Lynn's table. And on her table, she had this sign that says, "May the fork be with you." And I want to talk about that a little. There's my friend Lynn. We set up, we did an interview. And I'm so sorry. I didn't turn the sound on. May the fork be with you. This is a project she started a couple months ago, and she came on my show up in Ashland, and she talked about the way Ashland is now doing something that's called no single-use plastics. Now it's morphed a little with COVID because they can't have people coming into the restaurants, they are not using metal silverware. They're actually giving people plastic again just for a short time with COVID. But teaching people, she started this business, and I don't know if you can see it. And she said, if everybody will just take a bag and take that bag and put a container in it. So if you go out to eat, they don't have to give you leftovers in a container. They can give it to you in your own container. And then she said in that bag, she had this little pocket where it had a knife, fork, and spoon, and she takes it with her and washes it. But anytime she goes and picks up to go food, if she sits in a park to eat it or meets a friend somewhere, she has her own to go container. Now, when I was at her house, we were talking about some of the stores and restaurants are using this kind of a cardboard, it's what do you call recyclable? It will disintegrate. What's that word I want? Biodegradable. So, but the thing about these, I had just gotten some croissants, and so it really wasn't dirty. Oh, there's still a few crumbs, but it wasn't dirty. But I will save this and use this for something to put in the refrigerator, or I'll reuse it. At least I try and recycle and reuse. We all have to hone our powers of observation on the products that we buy, that we bring into the house, that we break down, and we have so much waste. For example, one idea was buy a gallon of milk. And I said, I don't drink that much milk. And they said, put half of it in the freezer. And I went, oh, okay, yeah, it's cheaper. It helps my freezer stay full so it doesn't have to work so hard to stay cold. And it's a good idea that we start buying things in bulk or quantity and reduce it for ourselves. So I just wanted to remind you of that idea that you're bringing less product into the house if you buy in quantity and then find a way to store it in glass jars that you've emptied out of something you've used. We can recycle things. And I know I mentioned it before, but one of the things I started doing in my kitchen is saving my bacon grease. I started baking my bacon grease in broil my bacon, and then I pour off the grease, and then I cook with it, and I put it on many different things. It's delicious. So I want to encourage you to consider taking an old jar and saving your bacon grease if you haven't done it before. I think about the people that came across country and all the things they did to season their food and figure out how to make their food stretch. And like when we went into lockdown, everybody was making bread and learning how to make yeast work and sourdough. It seemed like everybody told me, I'm making sourdough. And which was wonderful because then you're making the pancakes too. And you have that little starter in the refrigerator, and then you get to share it, give a piece to your neighbor. So if you let it die, you can borrow it back. Anyway, that was just an idea. I wanted to mention that. I always like to talk. So did I finish my pictures at Lynn's? I think so. And then I wanted to talk about volunteering. Right now we have a lot of people that need resources. And there seems to be a need for volunteers. And I don't want to suggest that you go work somewhere where you're going to get the virus. But if they get truckloads of food and they just need to be divided into 10 lanes or something, you may not deal directly with people. You might just be moving a box from hither to yon. But really, we're seriously in need of finding out somebody needs to put genius on people waiting in lines, whether it's to take a test, to vote, to pick up a resource that's muchly needed. This business of people waiting for hours in a car, burning oil, good for the oil companies, but it's so crazy to me. And then air conditioning. Let's say it's 110 degrees. They're sitting there with air conditioning. And how unhealthy is it to breathe that recycled air in your car with all, oy. So I'm just wanting somebody to delegate lines for everything that we're seeing people line up for. Let's find a way to expedite it, and it may take volunteers. One of the things I did in my last show, I talked about neighborhoods and how important it is that we all pay attention within our circle of influence. A parent that's gone back to work, maybe now both parents have gone back to work, and they may have school children the same ages of yours. You might be able to work with them, that we share, I don't want to call it childcare when they're older kids, but a safe house maybe. There might be neighbors that get together and offer a backyard where the kids can be separate, and have a safe place to be. We need to look at apartment houses and condominiums and areas where there are youthful people need to gather and maybe do homeschooling or something. We need to look at how we can assist with that and help, because some people have skills. My friend John's a tutor, and through the school they've been doing where they use computers, Zooming, whatever. He's been able to finish out the semester last year with students through conference calls and working with them on the computer. And so that's like something people need help, because not all parents are good at math. And so now that kids have been in homeschooling, parents are finding out, oh my gosh, I don't know if that's why I'm not a teacher. Anyway, some other things I want to talk to you about. So we need to do what we can to help each other. And that's why I talk about communities and neighborhoods. And nobody's here alone. We all need each other. And we really need to do what we can to help each other and consider each other as we go through the next few months of this. You know, we're trying to reduce the spread. It's going to spread. Some people are going to live through it. Some people will have damage to their lungs. And we all need to do what we can do. And that's wear a mask when we go out. And other than that, social distancing, don't have a big party. We need to lean into this for a while. We all need to make the commitment. I'm trying to do subliminal advertising and tell you that. So anyway, what else did I want to tell you? I want to remind you, when I'm telling you to get involved in volunteer, I want to remind you to not be too proud to use resources for yourself. If you're over 60, you can sign up for the Senior Nutrition Project, and you don't have to have them deliver it. If you're in town running an errand, you can just drive by and they give it to you in your car. So Wairika, Weed, and Mount Shasta has regular meals, and it gives you variety. And if you're 60, it doesn't cost anything because she's funded, and the more people that come, the more money she gets. So don't be proud. And they're delicious lunches and sandwiches and baked chicken, and she makes spaghetti and wonderful vegetables. And I've been enjoying it because I live alone and I don't always cook a meal. I can eat a sandwich or something, but I think my time is up and I need to wrap up this show. Thanks for joining me. My name is Therese Swenson, and I did a show called About Town. And then now I did a show called Places to Go. You can find that. It shows all the restaurants. And I've been doing COVID updates. And this now I'm doing these times, because these are tough times. And we all need to help each other and do what we can to be safe and not spread this, so that our hospitals won't get overburdened and our friends that work in medical care can have enough PPEs. And so thanks for listening to me yet again. Therese Swenson, Public Access, Siskiyou Media Council, either on the web or on the YouTube. See you next time.
Solve it, get